It's all yours. We're
Thank you
recording.
so much, Scott. I appreciate it. And welcome. Welcome to the Soul Matters RE Leader Lab for May and the theme of story. And there's Paul. Hi, Paul. Um, I am Sam Dickerson. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the DRE at Chalice UU Fellowship in Newbury Park, California. And as you can see, I am not Katie. Katie is not joining us today. We will see her again next month. She is enjoying a little time to herself. So I hope she's having a good time. Um, yeah, she's asked me to be our MC today, so I hope I do her justice. And before we get any further, I'm going to go ahead and light our chalice. Let me pull up my reading here. There it is. This is a quote from the author Christina Baldwin. Story is the songline of a person's life. We need to sing it, and we need someone to hear the singing. Story told, story heard, story written, story read creates the web of life and words. There we go. So, even though Katie is not with us, it's still the same format that we're used to in our leader labs. We do have an overview of the packet from Katie herself. I'll share that video in just a moment, and we'll take an opportunity to go over our challenges, our opportunities, and what takeaways we got out of this time together, what solutions we've found, hopefully for some of the challenges that we've gone over. But I guess we will get started with this video from Katie. So if you give me a moment, I will share my screen with you lovely people. I will share the screen. There we go. Technology is awesome. I love that we can do this. Okay, and here we go. Here's Katie.
Hi, everybody. This is Katie. I'm on a trip, and Sam has been kind enough to run the meeting. So I'm recording my overview for you virtually beforehand. So in the May story packet, which is what this lab is about, there are 5 sessions, and I call them 5 buckets. The first is who we are as UUs, Unitarian Universalists. Those are, that's a time to capture the congregational stories that float around in your facility or among your people. The second bucket is who you are as a family. Now that might take place on your Mother's Day weekend, for instance. The third is who we are as anti-racists. Stories we need to rewrite and unbury. The fourth is who we are as living and interconnected beings. That has to do with evolution and our fifth principle of valuing the results of science and reason. And finally, the fifth bucket is who we are as courageous people. That's dedicated to the weekend of Memorial Day and of our UU veterans and chaplains. So in the overall packet, I want to point out that there is a new mindful practice that the country is talking about. It's called Meditative Story. This is from an Apple podcast, and the link is in there for you. It's a story where you give a pause and let each person sink into themselves while listening to the story. Very powerful. Also, we suggest that you use Zoom to record some of those congregational stories. This format of recording onto your own computer is very powerful and very easy, and you'll be able to capture those special stories. So as we dive into this month of story in May, remember that we don't just tell stories, but stories tell us. So let me tease out a little bit of each of these 5 buckets. The first, congregational stories, I wanted to point out the yes and game of creating a silly congregational story. So each person has to start their contribution with yes and then they make up a different part of the story. The second bucket, the families for Mother's Day, I thought this would be a fine opportunity to give a standing ovation to the caregivers in the children's lives. And I put in a little sound effect so that you can play that screaming, yelling, clapping piece, as well as have the kids clap for their caregivers and mothers. The third, the anti-racism in the stories we tell, has to do with the fact that we're in the middle of this story, and we will probably always be in the middle of this story, and how hard we have to work at these stories. There's a story I wanted to lift up, graciously shared by Reverend Katie Scudera, of the enslaved children that they read about in the 1700s that were part of the members of their congregation who owned these enslaved children and also enslaved adults, and where they came from, and how even New England was not the anti-slavery historical story that we think of. Then the fun little suggestion is to become a crayon activist. This is a little girl named Belen Woodard who had a thing happen in her school about what color is the skin tone crayon and how she became a crayon activist. The next and fourth session is the evolution, the fifth source session. This is the way to introduce Darwin's story about the origin of the species as a way that changed the way we look at plants and animals on our planet. I always like to have an opportunity for people who to collect things to share those with the children. For instance, that would be your co-leader, someone who has a collection of rocks or butterflies or beetles or anything, just like Darwin collected things. The last one is an opportunity to invite the veterans in your congregation or the families who are somehow connected to the veterans to share their story with you and the children and the congregation. There's also, of course, Mother's Peace Day connection there. And I couldn't help but grab a meditation based on Kamala Harris, our new vice president, and her book, Be a Superhero. And that's how we all become courageous when we hear about courageous stories. So I hope you have a good rest of your talk, and I wish you the best in this month of story. Thanks, everybody. See ya. Hi, everybody. This is Katie.
I almost waved.
So did I.
Oh, can't hear you, Sam.
I muted my headphones so you wouldn't hear me drinking while Katie's trying to talk. And, you know, technology, it's so much fun. So we listened to Katie share her overview, and I think there's a lot of really neat stuff that she has planned that she's shared with us. So taking in what she's shared with us, looking forward to the month of May, what's going on within your own program, let's use this time to share. And I'm going to start by asking if someone would please be the timer. There's Jennifer. If someone would please be the timer. I'm usually the timekeeper, but Katie said, don't be the facilitator and the timekeeper. That's quite a juggling act. So it's simple. Just you can set the timer on your phone for a minute and a half, and just hold it up and let us know when someone's time to share has ended. And any takers? Any takers?
No, I'll do it. Okay.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Nan. So yeah, a minute and a half for each of us to share. Um, we'll start with challenges. And I would ask, since we're recording and other people will be watching this, to probably try to refrain from sharing, the personal issues that come up within our profession and congregations. But otherwise, let's go ahead and start off. And I'm going to start with Paul.
Okay, Paul.
So this is, what are we covering? Challenges or
We're starting with challenges.
challenges? I don't, I mean, other than wanting to reopen and trying to figure that out, I mean, thank goodness for Soul Matters. We're rolling right along. We had 17 last Sunday, but 5 of our regulars weren't there because it was a beautiful weekend here. So we're figuring, they're probably out enjoying the weekend. So that would put us like way over 20, which would have been great. We have split up 4th and 5th grade into a breakout room now. And we did it our first time last Sunday, and they loved it. We got 2 volunteers to go in there with them. And we don't meet during church, so that works out fine. And they loved it. They loved they talked about the same thing the little ones talked about, but they felt, a little bit more mature, a little bit, they had their own space, and that was good. That worked out really well. So we're going to be consistently doing that. And we got 2 teachers that are committing to do that. So that's cool. In summer, we're going to probably use everything that we haven't used in Soul Matters this last year.
Thanks, Paul. That the whole challenge of reopening, I think, is everyone across the board. I think we're all struggling with that one. I know I am too, definitely. Jennifer, you're new to these meetings. Welcome, welcome. It's great to meet you. So yeah, we would take this opportunity to share some of the challenges that we're working through within your program, within your congregation, or maybe a challenge you might be having looking ahead to the month of May and the theme of stories. So if you would like to share, if you're comfortable with that, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. So one of the challenges that I'm working through right now is we are trying to start a committee, a children's programming committee. I've been running the programs. It's been a really small interfaith spiritual center. And for the past 4 years, I've been running the children's programs there. And we're ready to make it bigger and involve the community more and get fresh ideas. And it's been a lot, there's sort of like this potpourri of offerings that we have now that I'm giving of like socially distanced outdoor things that happen at different times, like family hikes and that kind of thing. And then some online programming. And then when I add this into it, it's really a lot. I'm just spending, so my personal challenge is the amount of time and attention for kind of like the mandate of my job, which is not a full-time job. And then the bigger challenge is, how do you start a committee? Like, how do you really get people enthusiastic about it? People seem to be so overwhelmed, and parents are involved in other committees, but then the idea of having like adults who aren't parents involved in our committee is just like bewildering to people at this point. So I feel like there's a resource issue yeah, so that's my challenge.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Creating RE committees is not an easy task. Inviting people onto committees is not an easy task, and some people struggle with keeping them going, but they're an awesome resource. So maybe as we get into the takeaways and solutions, we can troubleshoot together and maybe offer you some suggestions. And I need to give a huge shout out to your cats in the background. They're lovely. Always,
I'm-
we always love seeing the pets
they,
squeak
they know
by.
it's feeding time. They're impatient.
Thanks, Jennifer. Nan,
Yeah.
I can do the timer for you so that
sorry.
you can share.
Okay, I've got it going. So I'm here in Vancouver, and I have four. My group is ages 7 to 9 or 6 to 9. We don't have any 6-year-olds. And I have 4 kids who come online every day. And before that, before COVID, I think maybe we might get 9 or 10 kids on a very, very good day. But honestly, I'm hugely grateful that these 4 kids keep coming, and that they're actually knowing each other. They know each other now, which is really important to me. And you know, because I have low expectations, I guess, I'm just so pleased that they come. And what can I say? Because this month I actually have volunteers to come and be with me, and I don't have to do it by myself. And so my challenge is just to keep them interested in what the lesson is. And my fallback always is, let's go on the whiteboard. They like to go on the whiteboard, and everybody draw on the whiteboard. And so what can I say? I think things are going great, but on a very small level.
Yep, and that's time. Yeah, thanks, Nan. Trying to keep them interested. I think even when we're in person, not just online, that's an ongoing thing. How do we keep our kids and youth engaged? Um, I'm going to take an opportunity to share as well, since we have a smaller group, a more intimate group. Nan, if you wouldn't mind timing me,
Thank you.
thank you. Gosh, the challenge of reopening, and I joined our reopening task force, and reading through the reports and trying to gauge where our county is and the state guidelines, and trying to juggle that while also trying to adhere to our covenant and the UUA guidelines, and really drawing from our values of how do we do this where we can serve everyone and not exclude people, and not, intentionally segregate people, or unintentionally either. We're this is such a heavy question for me, and trying to take the opportunity to reimagine RE and dust off the rest. Because this is such a prime opportunity to, like, okay, let's rebuild it from the ground up. What do we want the program to be? But trying to rebuild with the restrictions of COVID is mind numbing. And I know I'm not the only one, and I'm waiting for that aha moment, and it's not quite there. There's some great ideas out there, but that is fully my largest challenge. Thanks, Nan. So yeah, we went through challenges, and thank you. And it's good to know we're not alone, because this can be rough when we don't have a DRE in the next cubicle to bounce these ideas off, or religious educator. But let's go ahead and move on to opportunities, What are the opportunities that we see in our program, our congregation? What are the opportunities that you see with the theme of story? Um, before we get started, I just want to jump in and say there is definitely opportunity in story when it comes to our faith's history. My congregation jumped the gun and we started celebrating the 60th anniversary of the merger in April. And people are really fascinated by our story as a faith. Even members who have been around for 30, 40 years, after that particular sermon, they went, I had no idea. I didn't know about that piece. And my own mom, who listened in on the sermon, texted me immediately afterward, going, I didn't know we had a connection to Harvard and Emerson, and this is fascinating. Our history is fascinating, and being able to tell that story and share it and have people eager to hear it, it's really a treat. So I'm excited to see and hear what other people are doing as you all dive into your own UU histories and UU stories. But now I'm going to turn the floor over and let you share your opportunities. And I'm going to go the other way. And Nan, why don't you start us off? And
Okay.
I'll set the timer for you.
Um, so, well, what can I say? Opportunities. I'm very into anti-racism right at the moment. And well, that's a separate thing. I look at RE as an opportunity to get the kids to, what can I say? In Canada, we had a Truth, Healing, and Reconciliation Commission in which they went across the country maybe 10 years ago and listened to people's stories about residential school and about the 60s scoop. So one Sunday a month with Ari, we have an Indigenous theme, always told by an Indigenous author or something like that. And so I love the idea of using story about that. And I love the idea of questioning ourselves, our self-satisfaction, I guess, because Canadians love to say, oh, we're not as bad as the States, and then kind of let it go, when in fact, you know, racism is rampant everywhere. So I really hold up the UU for its anti-racism, thank you, thrust these days. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Nan. Let's go to Jennifer. What opportunities do you see?
Okay, thanks. I was going to ask you to repeat the question. I feel a little lost here. What opportunities do I see, like in my work with the?
Right, within your work or your program, your congregation, or maybe some opportunities that are arising under the theme of story.
So I was just thinking, this is really good because it gets my juices flowing, and the idea of, like, I've been using these amazing stories mostly throughout this year. I don't know. I think my group it's a mixed age group, and they're getting older, and so they can really get into those juicy stories. We've always done stories, but the meta idea of, like, what is your story, like what is storytelling, not just to tell cool stories in the program, but like maybe to have one of our gatherings be thinking of our lives as a story, and what is our story. Like, they could tell a little bit, each one, of their story, of, or a slice of what their story is. So I was thinking of that while you were talking. I think in a bigger sense, where I see really a lot of opportunity to move into youth programming, as this group that I've built up over 4 years has moved from like 3 years old up to 9 now. Like, they've slid up and they're a bunch of them are in middle school. And so I'm really thinking about that as like a growth opportunity and just like how to meet that age group and do more youth programming. We've been doing the Neighboring Faiths program this year with a Unitarian church. We're collaborating with them, and that's been great for that age. But so that's a growth, kind of a growth opportunity for us.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. And Paul, what are some opportunities for you that are coming up?
Um, we're rolling right along. I've actually taken some courses on telling stories, and so I wanted to so I can improve in that area, and keep and hold the children's interest. So I'm looking forward to having that opportunity. But I do the lesson with the kids online and interact with them every Sunday. It's I think the fourth and fifth grade going into their own little breakout room is an opportunity for them to share more, and not feel so babyish, and maybe they'll start sharing their stories. And in the discussion, the two teachers loved it. They said it was great. They got off topic a couple times, but that's okay. And so that's an opportunity there, because we just started it last week. So watching it grow and learning from it. Our youth group, we have a middlers group there. We have about 5-6 kids there, and 2 kids in our teen group. And we pull from the small group for them. So it'll be interesting. Summer, I'm kind of concerned about summer, because it's not gonna be as structured as Soul Matters, So we'll keep our same format, and we'll just pull from what we haven't used in Soul Matters for the rest of the year. I mean, we got lots of resources, which is great. I love Soul Matters. Have I mentioned that I enjoy the program?
Yeah, I think I kind of like it too. Yeah.
All right, my time's up.
Thank you, Paul.
Oh, that's my fault. I wasn't.
And here I thought Nan was timing us.
It was a long 90 seconds.
So can I just ask Paul where you are?
I'm in the church is Coastal Virginia Unitarian Universalist in Virginia Beach.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we had just moved to this huge building, and they're working on the social hall. They found money for the social hall, and they're putting a new social hall. I mean, it's a 3-story office building. The company that built the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel was their headquarters, and we took the three floors in the middle of the building and knocked them out and made a big sanctuary. It is beautiful. It's gorgeous. You couldn't even tell that it was an office building. It looks like a church. It's a colonial style building. It looks like a church, and it's really nice. But we
Talk
only
about opportunity.
haven't been there for a year and over a year. So it's like everybody wants to be in this new building.
It sounds exciting. The opportunity of unwrapping that gift and moving forward and moving into that. Oh, it sounds amazing. Jennifer, where are you located?
So I'm in the Boston area. It's located in Natick, Massachusetts. I don't know, where are you from?
I'm in Newbury Park, California, and I am just about an hour north of Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you might not know the specifics more than just to say we're about like 30-40 minutes west of Boston. I live in Concord, Massachusetts.
That's one of my favorite parts of Soul Matters is for everyone who's watching, or when you get to be in these, participate in the leader labs or the brainstorming labs, is you get to meet religious educators from all across the country in different time zones, all the way up into Canada. Hey, Nan, shout out. um, because that's how else do we get to see each other, especially on a monthly basis? And not everyone is, blessed to go to GA and those larger moments. So many opportunities, and I feel like that's a great segue into takeaways and solutions. And yeah, what did you hear, or what ideas got sparked within you as we shared our challenges and opportunities? Yeah, what are your takeaways from this time together? And I'm gonna start. I'm going to start with Jennifer this time.
Okay, well, I haven't had time to think about that, but I guess I shared a takeaway in the last section, not really having gone through this before, which is, having the children tell, like seeing how we perceive our lives as as the story, and having them, giving them a couple minutes each to tell a story, their own personal, something that happened last week, or I can ask them some questions. So um yeah, so that's a takeaway. I also, by profession, I'm a family counselor, so I think about how the stories that we tell really reinforce our view of the world, our relationship to it, our view of ourselves. And I'm always working with altering those stories, and is that really the truth? Is that really how, whether it's something huge like the story of racism, I'm not questioning that happened, but there's so many nuances to how we tell the story, and what we emphasize, and what's real for us. And I think that it's just so multifaceted, whether it's a large story or a little story. Like, when I was growing up, my mother did this, or something like that. Like, how is that story influencing you? So
I love it. Yeah, the influence of the stories and the perspective of the storyteller. I think we're all familiar with the saying, there's three sides to a story, their side, and the other, yeah, the truth. But I think that simplifies it so much more, as there's so many different ways to look at a story. I appreciate that, Jennifer. Thank you.
So that, just what you said reminds me, you guys all know the story of the blind man and the elephant. That's a great one, to think about, like with this story theme. So I throw that out there.
I agree. That's a great story, especially if you're looking at the perspectives and everyone's point of view of the same event and the same happening. Everyone saw it and heard it and felt it a different way. Um, I'm gonna jump to Paul. What opportunities or takeaways, or not opportunities, what takeaways or solutions, thank you, Nan, are you getting from this time together?
When we, on the third week, when we talk about the interconnected beings, who we are as interconnected beings, I got real excited because I think it's a great idea. The kids showing their collections of whatever, rocks, bugs, sticks, leaves. We'll ask for natural collections. It was all running in the back of my head. We're going to ask for natural collections, have them run and go get them and bring them back. And, kids will come back with stamps, Yokemon cards, Pokemon cards. I combined two, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon. Whatever, which is fine. It'll be interesting to see what they bring back. I'm excited about that. So I was plotting and planning how we were going to pull that off on Zoom. We did a virtual Easter egg on Zoom, so we can pull that off, I'm sure.
Show and tell is really popular on Zoom. It's really popular. I know my younger ones get really into it. I want to show you this and this and this. So if you structure it around that way, definitely. I love the idea of the collections. Nan, I will go ahead and do the timer for you.
Well, I would just say that the thing that I'm going to take away from it today is really a feeling of your optimism and your love. And it's very encouraging and really buoys me up. Yeah, so I think that's the most thoughtful thing that I could say about this, because sometimes I feel like I'm working on my own, even though we have a lovely DRE. She's very busy, and so I think that oopsie, sorry. I'm sure it's a realtor speaking in a foreign language. Yes, the collections idea is a good idea. I have been, I don't even know if this is legal, scanning with my computer books. And Molly Bang has a fabulous book called We Are Sunlight. And it's scientific, and it just teaches the kids how we are sunlight. And it's a really, really, really good book for teaching that we are all part of, thank you, we are an intrinsic part of everything, which is, yeah. So
We
anyway,
are
just, and I make a PowerPoint of the story so that I'm not holding up a book like that, and the kids really like that. And also they can read the words, so that there's an interactive thing while we're doing the story.
Who is the author of that book, We Are Sunlight?
Molly Bang, B-A-N-G.
Molly Bang, that sounds lovely. I don't think I have that one in my library. And I love those stories of how we're connected, like the stories of how we're all stardust and how we all came from, that universal seed. And so the connection to sunlight too is really lovely. I like that. Thank you. If you don't mind timing me, I'm going to go ahead and share some of my takeaways. Thanks, Nan. On the topic of collections, it's really popular for our high schoolers to do bug collections, especially for biology classes. And I would be very curious to see if the youth would be willing to share. What did you find and what did you discover? Yeah, I made me think back to my own bug collecting when I was a teenager. So that would be really interesting to share. It, I would love to hear the kids telling their own stories, connected to their families, connected to the congregation, to life, to their city or town, their neighborhood. And they love hearing each other's stories. And for me, it just happened this past Sunday in our family chapel. We asked the question, what's your favorite part of church? And almost all of them said the stories, the books, the stories. And one of them even said, I've been writing my own stories about my bear. And how much that child wants to share those stories. Thanks, Nan. So I want to find opportunities for that. Sharing stories and collections. I love it. Thank you for sharing. This is a much smaller group than we're all used to, but thank you for sharing and participating. And I do really enjoy hearing from everyone every time I join in on a Leader Lab. I I'm looking at the time, and because it's a smaller group, of course, this recording is going to probably be a little shorter, but that's okay. I think there's a lot of good information that was shared from you all and from Katie. Coming up, the next time we're going to see each other, next month, there is no brainstorming lab next month in May, that first Wednesday. So don't click on the link because no one's going to be here. But the second Wednesday in May will be our next leader lab, and that will be for the theme of play. That's coming up in June, and I think that's going to be really fun. I think we could all use a little bit of play in our lives. And I think doing it for RE is perfect because who better to teach us how to play than kids? Some of the other dates, normally we wouldn't be seeing each other in the summer months because there are no themes, but Katie has generously set up some dates for us coming up in the future. So we will have some more leader labs coming up. There's nothing in June, but there will be a leader lab in July, and that will be an overview of what's to come for the next church year, the next fellowship year, starting in September. And we will have our September theme leader lab in August. And as far as the brainstorming labs, I invite you in. They're not recorded, but they're great discussions. And the stuff that gets spitballed among all of us is fantastic. So that's coming up there in June. We'll be brainstorming September, and in July, we'll brainstorm October, and August, we'll brainstorm November. And you can always go back. Katie sent out an email with all of these dates about a week ago. I believe that came out April 7th is when she sent that out. So please go and check those dates and calendar them. And we don't have themes yet. I'm sure you've also seen the email with the themes that are being voted on for this coming year. So make sure you go over that with your congregation, with your congregational leaders, and have that sent in to Scott and the crew by April 30th. And I haven't looked at it myself just yet. I'll be going over that with my own minister in the coming week, but I'm really excited about what's to come. So with that, I will share. And there's Scott. Speaking of
Oh,
Scott,
I thought I'd hop on just here at the end. I don't mean to interrupt. Keep going with your flow. I just thought I'd be here just to hang out or see if there's anything I could be helpful. Sorry, Sam, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Scott, really now. Do you have anything to share as far as the survey or any of the announcements that I just shared?
Oh, I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening.
Oh, you
in,
weren't
so
listening.
I just put the timer on to listen to it. But you had mentioned the survey. Is that what you mean? You were announcing the survey.
Yes, and that's you're asking that to be turned in by April 30th. Is that correct?
That is, although, I mean, that would be ideal just because I know a lot of people are really wanting to kind of start even thinking about next year's themes, but we're flexible. So if for some reason, like your worship team or your RE team meets like the first week of the month rather than the last, you need a few extra days, just let us know. That way we won't start moving our thinking too quickly ahead without waiting on yours. I don't know what else I'd really add. I mean, I think I'd remind folks, we're asking one congregation per survey. So however it works in your congregation, some congregations have like the staff get together and do it. Some have the staff interview lay leaders and do it. Some pull together, whatever your polity or organization, whatever is the voice of your church, just sort of answer that. I think the only thing I would, I think we said it in the survey, but I'll just speak what I'm interested in this year. I think we're wanting to have themes that really help us think about this post-pandemic time. What it means to live, and all this talk now about living into the or going back to normal. I think what we're wanting to do with the themes is step back from that and pause and say, well, what do we want the new normal to be? So the question is, how do these questions help us as religious people enter this new phase or come out of this transitional phase with more intentionality? So that would be one. The other thing, I guess, and especially for religious educators, not just adults, I mean, I think everyone, the post-pandemic time, it's not just about COVID, as you all know, right? I mean, there's racial reckoning, political division, environmental. So there's a way in which, what the new normal isn't just about post-COVID, it's about all these big issues that I think folks are dealing with. So we'll make sure to help think about the themes. How will the themes help you get at that as well? And then two last quick things. As always, help me, and Katie's great at this, but help me with my blind sides, because I always think of the themes from adult worship perspective. And so please push back, to make sure that we're having themes that are family friendly and kid friendly, as well, that speak at multiple levels and perspectives. And then the last thing I would say to notice is we're pretty convinced we're going to try something new. In the past, we've always framed our themes as, what does it mean to be a people of blank? Like, this is story, right? But really the theme is, what does it mean to be a people of story? Or what does it mean? And we've always done that because we wanted to remind folks that our faith calls us to become a certain people carrying certain values. So who we're called to be in the world. I think what we're wanting to do for next year is help people shift it just a little bit and say, what skills, what is the work of next year? Or what are the spiritual skills we need to lean into as we move into this new normal? So we're just trying to shift that up. And so we're not going to use what does it mean to be a people of anymore. We're going to use active phrases. So when you'll notice that in the survey, my mind's not there right now to give you examples, but you'll notice how it's a different take on things. So just be ready for that, but that's what's behind it. Does that help a little bit as you're thinking?
Yes, it helps me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Scott, I'd just like to say, I think that's hugely wonderful. I really do, because we are in the middle of a story, and we really do need not to rest on our laurels, and we need to look at how we've awarded our laurels in order really to uphold our principles. And I'm so pleased that it's an active thing. Yeah, it's
That's
great.
great.
It's great.
Oh, good.
I feel like it calls to moving away. Habits are great, but we're always evolving. We're a living tradition, and so to evolve and move forward, I love that. How are we a people of story? How are we a people of play? But moving into a new direction and growing. We're always growing. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Scott.
And particularly the survey, at the end, there's some open sections. So we'll probably, in that place where you can give us some general feedback, but Katie and I will probably pull together some RE, just some online kind of brainstorming sessions where we can talk. But Katie and I are really wrestling right now with, hybrid church. You know what I mean? Like, I think we all kind of know that we're moving back to in-person, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get rid of the online experiences we've had. But figuring out what that means is really a big open question right now, right? And so as Soul Matters starts to develop resources, for instance, there's a big difference between us developing hybrid material so that you can do like Sunday school, both online and in person. That's very different than us developing material where we assume the Sunday experience is mostly in person, but we need to develop online and digital experiences for outside of Sunday with family or, so, I mean, again, I don't even have it clear in my head, but what exactly does that mean? hybrid church. And families, right? Like, will they return? I mean, I hope, right? I hope they return to a spiritual practice of in-person attendance. But I don't know what hybrid's done to folks. You know, people being online, will suddenly we see families attending more at a rate of twice a month? And since we've given them so much at-home material, will they sort of expect? I mean, I would say the center of our work has been Sunday in person, RE, right? With at-home religious stuff. Not everybody, I'm making generalizations, but family worship, at-home worship has been sort of the extra or the auxiliary kind of thing. But will parents be looking for us to kind of see them as both equal now, and seeing religious education or religious exploration as equally both? So that means we have to try to figure out a way to help, support you all as you're oddly doing this program where you're sort of the director. Sunday morning, you're not the star of the show, but you and I mean, you're the ringmaster, versus all of a sudden you're like the midwife for parents being, the leader in the home. Like, those are just, and so we don't know what that means. So that could mean different types of resources, the Chalice Home stuff, the Soulful Home stuff. I don't know. So any feelings, directions, insights you have for that, please pass that on through the survey to us.
Multi-platform is quite a different beast for RE in comparison to worship.
Mhm.
It has I can't necessarily say more pieces, but the pieces involved are a bit more complex than worship. And it's, I think us religious educators are still trying to figure out what that's going to look like as well.
Well, and I know time's almost up, so but I'll just say one. I was talking with a couple of ministers and religious educators, and this relates to the theme of story, right? And they were saying how part of our packets, you'll notice, has been bringing in special guests, or our material has suggested kind of bringing a special guest. The idea that what will draw families and kids, no offense to religious educators, right? But maybe we need more than just, even Mr. Rogers had to bring in the postman to keep things fresh, right? Mr. Rogers alone wasn't enough of a pull. But two ideas have been not just special guests, but around stories. Like, one person saying maybe there's a Thursday evening where the DRE works with families for the family to pick their favorite story and share it and why. And that might be more of a draw. Like, there's a big difference between a DRE saying, come on Thursday and I'll read a story for you all to listen to, versus come on Thursday and Joe and his family are going to share their favorite story for you to, that might be more of a draw, right? So even at that level, like, having us think about what's the format of that hybrid stuff. Yeah, and no worries. We have 45 days to figure it all out.
No pressure, Scott. No pressure. I have closing words for us so we can extinguish our chalice and be on our way. And this comes from Elizabeth Tarbox. I say ours is a story of faith and hope and love. I say it is our need for one another that binds us together, that brings us limping and laughing into relationships and keeps us at it when we otherwise might despair at the fix we are in. I say it is the holy we need, the eternal bond, our comprehension, and one place we can find it is here, working and worshiping together. And I say there is a transcendent value worthy of our loyalty, upon which we may set our hearts, and its divine manifestation is love. I will blow this out, and I will say thank you to you all for joining in. I've been Sam, and I guess we can stop the recording. Have a blessed day, everyone.
Thank you so much.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Yay, Sam.
did it. I guess I should actually stop the recording, huh?
I'll take care of it too. And Katie and I'll take care of sending it out, Sam. Really, thank you so much.